Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But to welcome to the show four exciting, talented players who are going to show their skill and talent as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, or repetition, or deviation. And they are seated on my right, Tony Hawks and Josie Lawrence, and seated on my left, Gyles Brandreth and Angela Barnes. Please welcome all four of them. Beside me is Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me with the score. She's got a stopwatch here, and she will blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we begin the show with Tony Hawks. Tony, my first job. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
My first job was as an advisor to Ted Heath. And I said to him, go for it, mate. Let's get into Europe. What could possibly go wrong? And he was very grateful to me, let me tell you that. My first job interview went terrifically well until the final question, which was, do you have any weaknesses? Yes, I'm too honest, I replied. To which he said, I don't think that's a weakness, and
Josie, you challenge first.
Repetition of weakness.
Yes, you repeated weakness.
Weaknesses?
Oh, weaknesses, he did and all.
Weaknesses.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, you all thought I was right until then.
So it was an incorrect challenge.
It was
Tony,
an
very
incorrect
clever.
challenge.
You played the game before, haven't you?
Yes, I have, thank you.
Right, Tony, you've got a point for an incorrect challenge. There are 27 seconds available still. My first job starting now.
To which I answered, I don't give a toss what you think. I didn't get the job.
Giles challenge.
Repetition of think.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Right.
I think I did,
Earlier
yes.
on you said
Yes.
Yeah, no, he's right.
Well
He's
done.
definitely right.
Well listened, well remembered. Giles, you have the subject. You have a point for a correct challenge. 24 seconds available. My first job starting now.
My first job was as a chorister at Holy Trinity Brompton Church in London. We prayed for people in the congregation to die because we got 5 shillings for a funeral, but only half a crown for a wedding, and just a bob for doing the average matins. On our knees, we would say, "Dear Lord, would you please kill that old codger in the front pew?"
So at the end of that round, Giles Brandreth speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point, and he's now in the lead at the end of the round. Josie, will you begin
Yes.
the next round? The subject is cats. 60 seconds if you need it. Tell us something about cats, starting now.
I am an animal lover. I love dogs, parrots, hamsters, but my favourite has to be cats. I always have cats in my house, those usually lovely little heartbeats that go from room to the next place.
Giles challenge.
The hesitation earlier on. I was thinking about it, and then I thought, this is going nowhere.
no,
No, Giles, I know you
I
played the
was
game.
about to tell you all about my pussy.
Giles, I think that was a bit harsh.
I agree.
I don't
I
think
agree.
she'd reached the point of real hesitation within the rules of Just a Minute. So, Josie, an incorrect challenge. You have a point. You still have the subject. You have 45 seconds if you need it, starting now.
I got into cats because I had my heart broken in 1990 and went to visit a friend of mine. And next door, his neighbour was part of the Cats Protection League. And over the fence, I saw lots of different cats. 3-legged.
Andrew challenge.
That repetition of cats.
No, you can repeat the subject on the card.
Oh, I thought it was... Oh, yes, no, you're right. It's not cat, it's cats.
No, it's
Isn't it on the
cats.
ca- Okay, sorry, Josie, my bad.
It's all right,
Sorry.
mate.
No, it doesn't really matter. You haven't played the game before. We won't charge anything for that.
No, don't
So
worry.
that Josie,
There will be another mistake soon.
31 seconds still available, Josie. Cats starting now.
She lifted over the garden.
Tony challenge.
I think we had garden fence before.
Yeah.
We had the
we
garden
did.
fence
Yeah.
before. Yes,
We did.
Josie, we did indeed. So,
See?
Tony, 28 seconds are still available. Tony, tell us something about cats starting now.
I wrote a song about cats once. I shall attempt to give you some of the lyrics. Dogs are great to be with. They are really good fun. You can put them on a lead and take them for a walk and let them off and take them for a run. You can call them Rusty and Rover and shower their heads with pats.
Giles challenge.
It was all about dogs. It was nothing to do with cats at all. I'm sorry. Deviation. A moment or two we would have allowed.
Giles,
but
what do you
frankly-
think was about to rhyme
I
with
know,
pats?
I know it was.
Giles, I agree with you. Your diatribe went into gobbledygook.
I talked for about
so it
7
wasn't coherent
seconds,
enough
then
for me
set
to-
up pats, which was clearly going to rhyme with cats, and I was stolen from me.
I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt. And if I can redress it later on, Tony, I will. And Giles, there are 16 seconds still available. And a point for you, of course. Cats starting now.
Macavitier's a mystery cat. He is called the Hidden Paw, for he's the master criminal who can defy the law. He's the bafflement of Scotland Yard, the flying squad's despair, for when they reach the scene of crime, that cat's not there. The quotation...
Sugar, I've done it again.
You
Cats and
anticipated a
cats.
repetition that didn't come?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the challenge, darling?
There isn't one, sorry. It was cats and cats.
Yes, there's cats, and he didn't. They're all cats. But,
Does this mean that Giles will have to pay a royalty to whoever wrote the lyrics to that?
Yes.
At least I had the good grace to sing one of my own songs.
Yes.
Giles, you were challenged with only 3 seconds to go. It was incorrect. You have another point. 3 seconds. Cats starting now.
Thomas Stearns Eliot is the author of...
Right, we're at the end of that round. Giles, speaking as the whistle went, again that extra point, he's increased his lead at the end of the round. Angela Barnes, we're with you to begin, and the subject we've got for you is Brighton Pier. Have you any associations with Brighton?
I live in Brighton, so that's quite handy.
That is probably why they gave you the subject.
Could be.
So, Angela, first time, Brighton Pier, 60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
I love Brighton Pier. It is one of the most optimistic places in the United Kingdom because on Brighton Pier, the shops sell buckets and spades. If you've been to Brighton, you will know it is a pebble beach. I'm not entirely sure what people are supposed to do with said items, but that's what they sell. I love Brighton Pier because it is a beautiful piece of Victorian architecture. There are, in fact, 2 piers in Brighton. One is called West Pier, although that is now just a shell. It has been burnt down several times. It looks now more like the body of the inside of a whale, if a whale was made of wood.
Well done, you went for nearly 40 seconds.
Yes, that was good.
You were all very generous, because I'm sure I repeated
There was
something.
no repetition
No
until you
repetition.
seated whale. There was none at all. It was effortlessly brilliant.
Thank you.
We are on notice here. Yes.
You challenged first. What was the challenge?
A repetition of whale.
Yes. So, Giles, 22 seconds, Brighton Pier, starting now.
In fact, I think there have been 3 piers in Brighton. I only know this because I'm one of the patrons of the National Piers Society. I got involved thinking it might end up with me in the House of Lords. That was a misapprehension on my part. So I go there as often as I can to recreate the magic of that film, Brighton Rock, set on Brighton Pier with Richard Attenborough as a young criminal called Pinky.
Giles Brandreth was issuing as the whistle went and has increased his lead at the end of the round. Tony Hawks has got a couple, and so has Josie, and Angela's yet to score, but she's contributing a great deal. Giles, your subject we have to start with is Dick Turpin. Tell us something about Dick Turpin in this game, starting now.
Dick Turpin, an unfortunate name for an accountant, but as he was recommended by Jimmy Carr, I thought I would give him a go. It turned out that this smooth-looking young man was in fact a direct descendant of the original Richard Llewellyn Fleece Montgomery Turpin, the famous highwayman, who was, as you will recall, executed in York at the Assizes following some horse hustling. This criminal individual, Dick Turpin, is a role that I myself essayed when I began in repertory theatre many years ago. I looked the part, young, lean, a stomach pulled in, a chin pushed out. I really was gorgeous. The man playing my grandfather...
Josie, you challenge first.
Repetition of man.
Oh, I
Yes,
thought
there
she
was.
was challenging gorgeous. It's different. I'm so relieved. That's fine.
Well, I thought she was too, but... Josie, yes, a correct challenge of a repeated man. 19 seconds available to you to take over Dick Turpin, starting now.
Stand and deliver your money or your life. There's a kind of romanticism about highwaymen, especially Dick Turpin. You remember that film, Carry On Dick? What a wonderful romantic movie that was.
Angela, challenge.
Repetition of romantics.
You well listened, Angela, yes. Right, and there are 7 seconds now for you to take over the subject of Dick Turpin, starting now.
I don't know much about Dick Turpin, but I do know that Adam Ant...
Oh, Tony, you challenge.
Repetition of no.
Never know, yes, there we are. Tony, 3 seconds, a correct challenge, of course, a point. 3 seconds, Dick Turpin, starting now.
Adam Ant, the dandy highway...
So Tony Hawk, speaking as a whistleblower, gained that extra point. He's moved forward. He's in second place, just ahead of Josie Lawrence and Angela Barnes. And in the lead still is Gyles Brandreth. And Tony, we're with you to begin again. And the subject now is the Orient Express. Tell us something about that lovely train in this game, starting now.
On the Orient Express, you can pay a small fortune to travel on a train for 4 days. The cheaper option is to buy a return to Edinburgh and let Network Rail take care of the rest for you. Something I did a few years back. But let's not go into that now, because it would be deviating. I want to stick very much with this subject that I've been given. I could get picked up on that, and heaven forfend, I wouldn't want that to happen again.
Gyles, challenge.
Enough of this blathering.
What's your challenge within the rules of just a minute?
Deviation from the subject. He mentioned the Orient Express at first, then he went to Edinburgh, and then he procrastinated, burbling on about inanities.
Nicholas, I've got 3 words to say in my defence.
What's that?
Oh, it's 4, actually. Benefit of the doubt.
Oh, yes, you deserve it. You had it. I gave it to you before.
You did.
I promised if I could redress the balance, I would. Tony, benefit of the doubt. And a point for an incorrect challenge. 32 seconds. The Orient Express, starting now.
I used to travel on the Orient Express every other weekend until it became very disappointing because Leyton Orient's home form was abysmal. So instead, I took the much longer journey down to Venice.
Gyles,
Repetition of journey.
yes,
We
you
had a
took
journey
a
to Edinburgh
journey
earlier.
before. You did repeat the word journey. And 15 seconds, Gyles, a correct challenge again. And the Orient Express is with you, starting now.
The Orient Express is a fine fast food Chinese restaurant that I know in Mill Hill. But the Orient Express we are probably talking about is the train that takes you all the way to Venice, on which I went with Nicholas Parsons' wife, Annie. She and I decided to run away together.
You could have had him for deviation then about being on the Orient Express with our wife Annie. If not, I'll have words with her afterwards. So anyway, Gyles, you were speaking as a whistle wind, gained an extra point. You've increased your lead at the end of the round. Josie and Lawrence, we're back with you to begin. And the subject now is comfort food. Oh. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game? Starting now.
When I was a student and rather poor, my favourite kind of comfort food was that substance that the aliens used to talk about on telly, laughing at us for the way that we ate ours. It was called smash. I would put these little bits into a bowl, cover them with boiling water, and spread the unctuousness thickly onto 2 slices of white bread. Squash them down with my hand and eat. Such wonderful comfort food. The other thing I enjoyed was a basin of the delight of angels. I think you all know what I'm talking about. Strawberry flavour, never butterscotch. Are you mad? Now, I also love mashed potato.
Oh, right. Tony challenge.
Is there a repetition? I don't know, actually.
I said smash.
Yes, repetition potato? No?
No,
No,
not
I don't think
potato,
she's
no.
done anything wrong.
She said
Very well
smash
done.
before. No, she said smash
Bet
before.
I'm making you all
And-
hungry as
no,
well,
no,
aren't I?
not really,
What, a
darling.
smash sandwich?
Yeah, smash sandwich.
It
Try
was
it.
having the
It's
reverse
good.
effect upon me. Tony, incorrect challenge.
yes.
So, Josie, you still have the subject, and you have a point, of course, and you have comfort food still. 12 seconds, starting now.
It's a wintry day and you're feeling sad. The rain is beating on the window. What better thing to do than make yourself some comfort food? If you get some salmon and...
So, Josie Lawrence was then speaking as a whistle went, and got an extra point for doing so, as it leapt forward. And Angela, it's your turn to begin.
Okay.
The subject is jogging. Are you a jogger?
Vaguely.
How do you jog vaguely? Taps. 60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
I have recently begun jogging so that I can join the realms of people that get to feel smug when they tell everybody on Facebook that they have been jogging. I've never jogged before, but what I did recently was download an app onto my mobile telephone device, which is called Couch to 5K, and it takes somebody like me who has never jogged before and...
Tony challenge.
Yes, repetition of jog.
Jogged,
Jog,
yeah.
because it's jogging on the subject. You can repeat that, but not the one you said, all right? So well listened, Tony. 37 seconds are still available. Jogging with you, Tony, starting now.
I find I need my memory jogging more these days. Recently, I went upstairs, and when I got there, I'd completely forgotten that I live in a bungalow, which meant I was stuck up there for some time until the...
Jodie challenged.
A repetition of up.
Yes, upstairs. No, upstairs is one word.
No, it was up there.
He went up there.
Oh, you went up
Went
there, didn't he? Yes, right, quite right. So, Josie, well listened. 17 seconds are still available. Another point to you, and the subject of jogging, starting now.
When I go for my stroll around my local park, there are lots of people passing me. These people are jogging.
Yes.
People.
Yeah, people.
Who need people?
Tony?
Repetition of people.
Yeah, people, right. There are 10 seconds still available. Another point to you, and jogging is a subject, starting now.
I went jogging in America once. Do you know what they say when they're coming in the other direction? How you doing? As if you're going to stop and give them a detailed description of what's happening when you're running. Are they insane?
So Tony Hawk, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. And Gyles, it's back with you to begin. And the subject now, going to the hairdresser. The reason they're laughing, by the way, listeners, is because they're looking at Giles's top knot.
Or sadly, lack of it.
60 seconds if you need it, Gyles, starting now.
How do you want your hair cut, they ask. I always say, in silence, please, and preferably in private. But it seems to be impossible because you sit in the window and others come and stare. People in the street mock you as your poor little bald pate is being massaged a bit and they're combing what locks you've got towards the front. I hate it. I only go on there because Nicholas once told me that his life had been changed by going to the hairdresser. The hairdresser there said to him, I'm going to recommend you to the Bolting brothers to take part in a series of movies. My friend, the host of this program, couldn't believe his luck. This Scots barber went on. These lads make fine movies. You could...
Andrew challenge.
It's a repetition of movies.
Yes.
Did I say movies before?
Yes, you did.
You sure?
So.
1 point for the correct challenge and 13 seconds available. Going to the hairdresser, starting now.
I find going to the hairdresser very stressful because I hate having to look at myself in a mirror for that length of time. So I tend to do my own hairdressing. I dye my hair. You may be surprised to know this isn't my natural colour. My dad wasn't a Fraggle.
So Angela Barnes was then speaking as the whistle went and has gained that extra point. And Tony, it's your turn to begin. And the subject now is the one that got away. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Given that I had long and wonderful relationships with Julia Roberts, Andy McDowell, Jennifer Aniston, it's difficult to know which one really got away.
Giles challenge.
All three of them got away. And he was nowhere near any of them in the first place except in his lurid, fantastical dreams.
Well, I don't know whether they were lurid and fantastical, but I
do.
agree
I
with
know
you.
Tony quite well. They were.
So, Giles, I agree with you. Thank you. Have a point for that, and you have 47 seconds if you need it. The one that got away, starting now.
I earn a bit of my living doing voiceovers, and the one that got away recently was the M&S Christmas commercial. I was sad about that. Instead, I was given the one for the Tenor Flex Plus Super Soft Incontinence Pad.
Josie challenge.
Repetition of the one.
The one, yes.
Oh. The one that's on the card, the one that got away, the one that got away.
It is. It's on the card.
It's on the card.
Yeah.
You can repeat what's on the card. And Josie, incorrect challenge, so
Sorry,
Gyles has
do
another
I get
point.
a point for an incorrect challenge?
No, darling, he gets the point for the
Yes,
incorrect
I just
challenge.
thought I'd try it.
I know. Giles, it's with you. The one that got away, and 37 seconds starting now.
Jennifer Aniston came running up towards me and said, "Oh, my goodness."
Tony challenge.
No, she didn't. She was going out with me at the time.
That is exactly the point. She was, and she was coming to me for help.
All right. What we'll do there is, because we enjoyed the interruption, I'll give you a bonus point because of that, Tony. But it was an incorrect challenge, so because we don't know in his fantasy world whether it was true or not. So.
Oh, he's allowed a fantasy world then.
Well, he didn't establish it, you had established it was a fantasy. And Giles, another point to you, the one that got away, and there are 33 seconds available, starting now.
In television terms, the one that got away, as far as I am concerned, was Love Island. I missed the call and was not able to take part in the series. Instead, I have been offered an opportunity to appear in the real Marigold B&B in Prestatyn, which will...
Tony challenge.
Repetition of B.
B&B. Well, listen, Tony, it's a fiendish game, isn't it? So, Tony, a correct challenge. 19 seconds are still available. The one that got away, starting now.
I'm not a fisherman, but I have a friend who does like this particular pastime. He's constantly having to get to terms, come to, if you like to speak English.
Josie.
A repetition of if you like.
If you like, yes. And so, Josie, correct challenge. 8 seconds are still available. The one that got away, starting now.
It's a fisherman tale, isn't it? They're out in the middle of the Atlantic and they tell you the tale of the one...
Oh, Giles challenge.
Giles.
Repetition of tale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
bugger.
You started off.
One was T-A-I-L.
I know it was, darling, but we're working in the realm of sound.
Yes.
Charles, you've got him with 1 second to go. On the one that got away, starting now.
Julia Roberts looked into my eyes.
And so, Giles Brandreth was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and we're moving into the final round.
Oh.
You're a very sweet audience. I will give you the situation as we do. Angela Barnes, who hasn't played the game before, she's in a very strong 4th place. Josie Lawrence is just ahead of her with about 3 points. Ahead of Josie is Tony Hawkes, but 3 or 4 points ahead of Tony is Giles Brandreth as we begin the final round with Josie Lawrence. Subtitles. Josie, tell us something about subtitles in this game, starting now.
Subtitles are at the bottom of a screen. Sometimes they're for the hard of hearing. I don't know anything about... I got panicked then. I don't know anything about subtitles.
So, Tony, what was your challenge?
Who was it?
Hesitation.
I
Thank
think
you.
there was definite hesitation there. So 55 seconds are still available, Tony. And you have the subject of subtitles starting now.
For those of our listeners all around the world, subtitles will now be appearing at the bottom of your radios. And you will get a translation of what I'm saying and, interestingly, just how wonderful it is too in a little box just to the left.
Giles challenge.
Repetition of just.
Yes, and I think you could have had him for deviation
Yeah, of
because
course.
the idea of subtitles on the radio, really. Giles, another point to you. Subtitles, 34 seconds starting now.
Playing with the Zapper a few years ago, the subtitles suddenly popped up on the screen. I've not been able to get them down yet, waiting for the relevant grandchild to come over.
Tony challenge.
Turn the telly off.
Oh! I've just thought of something to say about subtitles.
I think Josie should definitely have it now, don't you? She's thought of
If you
something
want to give
say.
it to her, Coach, you have the subject.
Yeah, I will pass because I so want to hear what Josie's got to
Very
say.
generous. All right, you want to hand it to Josie, your
Yes.
friend?
Yes.
Josie.
So, excuse me, well, obviously, I'm very happy to concede it to everybody, Nicholas, but is there a reason why the subject is being taken away from me?
Yes, because Tony wants to give it to...
I understand he's been wanting to give it to Josie for years. Largely because Jennifer Aniston and Julian Roberts and the others said no. Josie is the last of the ones that got away.
Giles, I'll give you a bonus point because we enjoyed all that fun and interruption. And as there's only 25 seconds to go, I think you can be generous enough.
I would like to. I'd like to give it to Angela.
Can we make an agreement that when Josie messes up quite soon, it goes to Angela, whoever challenges, and then we've got a nice happy ending to this show.
Absolutely.
Tony, you are on my thoughts as well. Exactly what I was going to say. So, Josie, impress us. 25 seconds if you need it, starting now.
I have a very small television screen, and one day, this is true, I couldn't read the subtitles, so I turned the volume up. That's it.
A bonus point to Josie for that lovely line there. And Angela, finish the show for us if you can. You've got 15 seconds to go. Subtitles starting now.
I am hard of hearing. I use subtitles when I watch TV, and I understand it's very annoying to watch that box with somebody who uses subtitles.
Giles,
but it's more irritating for us.
Tony, challenge.
Nicholas, you interrupted there. You should get a point.
I wanted our first-time player at the game to have a few more points.
Yeah,
you repeated
Nicholas
watch?
challenged, repetition of watch, but he's overruling his own challenge.
Right, repetition of watch. So I'm giving you a bonus point for being so clever.
Thank you.
Keep going, Angela. You're about to win the entire game.
So you have 3 seconds to go on subtitles starting now.
I like subtitles when they're on the news.
I will give you the final score. Angela Barnes, who's never played the game before, came from behind and stayed behind. But she did get quite a few points. But she was only 2 points behind Josie Lawrence, who's played the game many times, great value there. Josie was 3 or 4 points behind Tony Hawkes, but he was 4 points behind our leader, Gyles Brandreth. So we say, on this particular edition of Just a Minute, Gyles, you are the winner. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 delightful players of the game, Tony Hawkes, Josie Lawrence, Angela Barnes, and Gyles Brandreth. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score, and she's blown her whistle with such aplomb when the 60 seconds elapsed. We thank our producer, Victoria Lloyd. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing and fiendishly difficult game. And we're indebted to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre who've cheered us on our way magnificently. From them and from me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye. Tune in again at the same time when we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, talented performers who are going to show their skill with words and vocabulary as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sheila Hancock, and on my left, Julian Clary and Josh Widdicombe. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me with the score, and she'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we begin the show with Paul Merton. Paul, here's the subject, man's best friend. Please talk on that subject, starting now.
Usually man's best friend is described as a dog. That is the phrase you often hear. Man's best friend is a canine. Obviously, there are also other animals that could...
Sheila, you challenge first.
Well, he's given up the ghost.
I've given up the ghost.
So
Hesitation.
We interpret as hesitation. So, Sheila, there's still 50 seconds available. You tell us something about man's best friend.
Man's best friend is a dog, but for me, I don't like them. I like pussycats.
A Paul challenge.
Repetition of like.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
So you've got it back again,
How does
Paul.
that feel? Yeah.
A point for a correct challenge, of course. Take over the subject. Still 43 seconds available, starting now.
A horse can be described as man's best friend. Roy Rogers, the singing cowboy, sang a song about a... what's another word for horse? Equine. Too late.
Julian, you challenge first.
Yes, hesitation.
Yeah, we interpret that hesitation.
Absolutely.
Right. Everybody's speaking on this first round, which is great. There's still 36 seconds.
Sorry, what?
You've spoken. Well done, Josh. Well done.
Wonderful to be patronised 17 seconds in.
I would never patronise anybody as talented as you, Josh. Julian, you had a correct challenge. You have a point. You have 36 seconds. Man's best friend, starting now.
I've had 3 dogs in my adult life, Fanny, Valerie and Albert, and I consider them all my best friend, although that would be plural, but let's not get caught up on the details. Fanny, let's start with her, which is repetition.
Too much
Josh.
Fanny.
Who would have guessed it?
So let's give them all a bonus point for that. That was a lovely, spontaneous crack. Man's best friend, Josh. 22 seconds, starting now.
I'm getting married later this year and have to choose a best man. Traditionally...
Sheila challenge.
Well, it's a bit of a pause, and also I want to congratulate you.
Thank you very much.
So it had a sting in its tail, didn't it?
I can't give you any points for congratulations, but I can give you one for a correct challenge. And there's still 17 seconds, Sheila. Man's best friend, starting now.
There's a little local park near me, which is actually a dog's lavatory, and I get so angry about it, I mentioned it to a fella who had one of these canines that leapt up and scratched my leg. And I said, I don't like dogs. And he said, well, why do you...
Oh, Josh challenged.
Repetition of dogs.
Yes.
Josh, you've got in cleverly with 2 seconds to go.
Oh,
So
my
a point
word.
for...
I'm still not confident I'm going to do this.
Give it your best, Josh. 2 seconds, man's best friend, starting now.
When I was a child, we had a dog...
So at the end of that round, the man who said I was patronising him has now taken the lead. He's 1 point ahead of all the others. And Sheila Hancock, we'd like you to begin the next round. The Sistine Chapel.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. A woo from 4 people in the audience. And Sheila, 60 seconds if you need it. The Sistine Chapel, starting now.
I go a bit cold when I think of the Sistine Chapel because I visited it many years ago with my dear husband, and we had previously been to the catacombs, and he got a terrible fit of claustrophobia. And the Sistine Chapel was full of people, and I could see that he was white and shaking. So I found it quite difficult to wonder at this amazing place with its 6 windows and famous artist murals, among them Botticelli, but of course supremely the ceiling of Michelangelo with the pointed...
Paul, you challenge first?
Hesitation.
There was. She went for 37 seconds. Very good. So that means there are 23 seconds available, Paul. And the subject is the Sistine Chapel, starting now.
Man's best friend is the Sistine Chapel. I take it everywhere I go. I down the pub, over across to the park where the dogs are defecating. The Sistine Chapel, for me, represents the epitome of the artistic vision. When Michelangelo was told that he had to paint the Sistine Chapel, he said, how many coats? But he quickly realised that the... Oh, I don't know. Going too fast.
He quickly realised what, Paul?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't
no.
I started the sentence without having any idea what I was going to say.
So, Julian, you challenge first.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, right. You have 6 seconds if you need it, Julian. Tell us something about the Sistine Chapel, starting now.
It's sort of the Pope's private disco, as far as I can make out, with cherubs and angel and all this campery going on.
So, Julian Clary was speaking as a whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and now we have 3 people equal in the lead. They're all 1 ahead of Sheila Hancock, who's in second place. And Josh Widdicombe, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject here is a tablet. Tell us something about that very modern used word in this game, starting now.
Were a tablet to come up on Just a Minute a few years ago, you'd have presumed I meant pills, the kind of things that are taken backstage at this show. Paracetamol, aspirin, the other blue ones, I didn't know what they were, but I won't talk any more about them. But these days, the meaning has changed. It means an iPad, or the other ones that aren't as good, so we don't know the name for. I didn't think the iPad would take off when it came out.
Sheila challenge. Yeah, Sheila.
Repeat of iPad.
You mentioned iPad.
Oh,
yes, it's very easy.
Sorry.
So, Sheila, a correct challenge, a point, of course. The subject is a tablet, and you have 35 seconds starting now.
Well, to me, a tablet still does mean a pill, but I have terrible problems with them these days because they all come in a blister pack, and my hands are a bit dodgy at the moment, so I can't get the damn things out. I preferred when they were in a nice brown bottle and you could take it out into your hands. Out.
Yes, a Julian challenge.
Repetition of out.
Yes, take it out. Well done. 16 seconds available, Julian. The subject is a tablet, and you start now.
There's a tablet for everything nowadays. My dear parents are 88, mere striplings compared to some. But they take 19 pills every morning and 15 of an evening. There's for their kidneys, their lungs, heart, eyes, and really...
So Julian Clary was in speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so, and has taken the lead at the end of the round. And Julian, it's your turn to begin. Oh, I'm sure this is going to be fun. My morning routine. So they're laughing already, Julian. Tell us something about my morning routine in this game, starting now.
Well, I'm an early riser, and about 20 minutes after that, I get up. The routine begins when my husband brings a tray into me for my breakfast, which is usually porridge, steaming hot, and that goes down a treat. And then I have my bed bath, which is done with a very high-quality chamois leather. And by then, it's lunchtime, so the morning is over. What else can I tell you? I might have had a nap. I might have watched some...
Sheila challenge.
The thing on the card is my morning routine, and we've now got to lunchtime.
Yes.
An afternoon rat.
I think I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, Sheila.
Talking about his
and say,
afternoon
yes, it is my morning routine, and he's now got to midday. So, Sheila, a correct challenge, a point, of course. 32 seconds available. My morning routine starting now.
Well, mine varies according to whether I'm filming or in the theatre or whatever, but I prefer to wake up very early and I always have a pad by my bed and start writing, because if I do that, I can usually continue the rest of the day. And at the moment, I have a deadline for a book to deliver. I find it beautiful to watch the sun rise over the river where I'm fortunate enough to live and see the birds and ducks and all the other things start flying around and greeting the day, as do I.
Sheila Hancock was then speaking as the whistle went, and she's moved forward, and she's now equal in the lead with Julian Clary. And Paul Merton, we're back with you to begin. Oh, a nice cinematic one for you. Alfred Hitchcock. I know you must know something about him. Tell us in this game, starting now.
Alfred Hitchcock was born in Leytonstone at the end of the previous century, and he became one of the most famous film directors in the world, mainly because of a television series he presented called Alfred Hitchcock Presents in the 1950s, and it was through this that he became a worldwide figure. His many films have still survived very well for modern audiences, such as Vertigo, The 39 Steps, North by First Word Again West, and there are many examples. Psycho, for example, is one where he's... Oh, two examples.
Josh challenged.
Repetition of examples.
I did say example twice.
Yes, you did.
Also, I thought of something from 20 seconds earlier that I didn't say at the time.
Oh, really? Do you want to
that?
share it with us?
When you said he was born at the start of the last century...
Yeah.
That's 18 years ago.
That's right. That is right.
As you haven't played the game so much, I give you a bonus point for your erudition there. And so you have a point for a correct challenge, and there are 32 seconds still available. You tell us, Josh, something about Alfred Hitchcock starting now.
Start of the last century.
No, it's him.
Is that 1900?
Yeah, I was wrong, actually.
Yeah.
We'll take
Could
that
I
point
remove
away.
my bonus
then.
point, please?
Yes.
And I think Paul should have it.
32 seconds on Alfred Hitchcock, starting now.
A lot of people talk about Alfred Hitchcock's cameos in his main films, Psycho or North, but oh, what an idiot.
Paul, you challenge first.
Hesitation.
Yeah, we interpret
What
that
were
as
you going to
hesitation.
say?
North by Northwest.
So, Paul, the correct challenge. 26 seconds are still available on Alfred Hitchcock, starting now.
Alfred Hitchcock, who is currently 20 years old, made a whole series of movies. 39 Steps was the first grown-up one that I...
Oh, Julian challenge.
Repetition.
Of what?
Movies.
Oh,
I thought I
yes.
said films before.
Did you?
39 steps.
You certainly mentioned the 39 steps.
Did I?
Yes.
Did you?
Well, the audience they're making notes in the front row there.
Yeah.
So, Julian, correct challenge. There are 19 seconds still available. Alfred Hitchcock, starting now.
He's not what you call...
Paul challenge.
Hesitation.
Rubbish. He was a bit slow, but not enough to be called hesitation.
No, absolutely not, no.
So, we won't charge any points on that.
No points.
But say, Julian, you have the subject still. 17 seconds. Alfred Hitchcock, starting now.
Alfred Hitchcock, what an interesting face. Let's just ponder a while and never mind his many films. A face like a repetition.
Paul challenge.
His face was too interesting. He said repetition of face.
Absolutely. 10 seconds available still, Paul, on Alfred Hitchcock, starting now.
Ivan Novello starred in The Lodger, which was directed by Alfred Hitchcock in 1925 and is considered the master's finest piece of cinematic...
Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went. He's now equal in the lead with Julian Clary, but they're only 1 point ahead of the other two. And, Sheila, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is small talk. And the 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
How are you, darling? Are you well? That's a pretty frock. It suits you very much. But that woman over there is wearing the same one. Never mind. Where do you go for your shopping? Oh, I understand. That's why it's happened. How are cricket doing at the moment? I know you're very interested in that pop group. So am I. I love them, don't you? Especially the boy with the floppy hair. Mind you, it's better than talking about Brexit, isn't it? Even though it's rubbish. Which is why I babble on like this, because I'm so sick to death of anguishing over what's happening to the world today. Oh, no, I must get back to the small talk, which is, how are you, Mr. So-and-so? Ah, I've said so twice.
Josh, your challenge.
Well, I didn't notice it, but she did point it out. It was a repetition of so.
Oh.
Mr. So-so.
Yes. So, well, listen, Josh. Small talk with you. 17 seconds available, starting now.
When I used to work for The Guardian as a sports journalist, there was a feature called Small Talk, in which we would interview a small...
Julian challenge, yes?
Hesitation.
Yes?
Oh, this is a dangerous area if he's going to get the subject.
Well, we'll find out, won't we? He has only 10 seconds to be dangerous. Starting now.
My husband's very good at small talk. He's not said anything interesting in the 15 years I've known him. And that's what I enjoy. He is from the north, and I was on a train recently.
So Julian Clary, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point. And he's in the lead now. 2 ahead of Paul Merton and 3 ahead of Sheila and Josh. Right, Josh Widdicombe, we're back with you to begin. And the subject now is the Beast of Dartmoor. Can you tell us about that character in this game, starting now?
It's always very awkward when people bring up your nickname on Radio 4. But I'm willing to accept it this once, Nicholas. The Beast of Dartmoor was what I was called at school because I went to school on Dartmoor.
Paul challenge.
Too much education.
Yeah. School repetition, 49 seconds available, Paul. The Beast of Dartmoor, starting now.
The Beast of Dartmoor is one of those stories that's been circulating for about 30 or 40 years. People believe they've seen a big cat somewhere out on the Dartmoor moor, and they say to themselves, I'm going to report this to the local newspaper. But photographs that have been taken of this particular creature are never...
Julian, you
Definitive,
challenge
that's what
first.
Hesitation.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it was a hesitation. So the Beast of Dartmoor is with you. No, not the Beast of Dartmoor. The subject of the Beast of Dartmoor is with you, Julian. With 33 seconds to go, starting now.
It was dusk. I was mincing across Dartmoor, and I became aware that I was being followed. Eyes were peering. Yes, I broke into a run, but I heard heavy breathing. Was it the beast of Dartmoor, or was it my husband? We just don't know. But I felt claws ripping into my flesh, and I thought, this is the end. Man...
Paul, you challenged.
Well, there was a hesitation there.
I'm afraid there was, as the claws
sort of
went into your
acting.
flesh.
I was about to give you my death scene.
That's not like you.
I can understand. Yes, I can understand how you paused as you had the vision of these claws going into your flesh. But you did pause long enough for me to interpret it.
I think it's as well you stopped me there anyway. It's going to get very messy.
So, Paul, you have another point. You have 12 seconds for the subject of the beast of Dartmoor, starting now.
Nicholas Parsons went there for his holiday once in 1937 and walked naked across the moor. It was at this point that the local newspapers suddenly declared there was a beast of...
Sheila challenge.
Is there a piece of newspapers? You said it some time ago.
Yeah, I said
There's all
newspaper
stories.
and then newspapers.
Did you?
You did.
Thank you for helping us
said-
out. We wouldn't know what to do if it wasn't for
I thought you
you.
said there were always stories like this in the newspapers.
Oh, I might have done, I can't remember.
So,
Anyway, I
Sheila,
can't really remember.
No, none of us can remember.
No.
Did anybody record this by any chance? But I'm willing to say that I did repeat it.
right, Paul, an incorrect challenge. So you... Oh, only 3 seconds to go. The beast of Dartmoor, starting now.
Big cats have been spotted in that area for quite some...
So, at the end of that round, Paul has increased his lead by 1. He's just ahead of Julian, Clary, and then Josh Widdicombe and Sheila Hancock are equal in 3rd place. Julian, we're back with you to begin. The subject, the playground. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
The playground is where children frolic between lessons, and what a delightful place it should be. However, as a renowned homosexual, if I cast my mind back to my feminine years, it wasn't a pleasurable experience. I was prodded and poked and bullied, always seems too mild a word. Bricks were thrown at me, and I'd quite like a laugh, but I'm not going to get one on this particular...
Paul challenge.
You got to laugh.
I think what we have to do there, because it was very inventive of you, Paul, we give you a bonus point there for the interruption. But, Julian, you weren't interrupted, so you get a point for that. You keep the subject. 33 seconds. The playground starting now.
The playground was the name of a gay club in Soho in the 1980s, where I used to go, and I would tell you more about it, but it's such a blur. The entire decade, due to my recreational activities, is not something I can recall, but the playground. Oh, it's coming back to me now. The music was throbbing. There were men dancing in cages, and I found lots of gentlemen callers there. The playground was my favourite.
Sheila, you challenge.
Oh, in the nick of time.
I think I would agree with you, yes.
Hesitation.
I ground to a halt.
Hesitate, yes. Sheila, 6 seconds to go on the playground starting now.
We used to play a game called The Farmer's in His Den, which was a choice of who would be...
So Sheila Hancock, speaking as the whistle went, has moved forward. She's still in 3rd place, but she's moved. And Paul is in the lead, one ahead of Julian, Clary, and then the other two. Right. Paul, we're back with you to begin. And the subject now is my personal best. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
I suppose one should always try to do one's personal best, but
Josh, challenge.
It wasn't a repetition of one.
No.
No.
So I've got nothing to say. Sorry.
Except it was
Incorrect
an
challenge.
Incorrect challenge.
Yeah, incorrect challenge.
Can he buzz for an incorrect challenge?
I can't give you a point for an incorrect challenge.
No.
No. But Paul gets a point because he was interrupted, and he has 56 seconds. My personal best, starting now.
I once directed a documentary about Alfred Hitchcock for the television, and I consider that amongst my work to be my personal best. It was an absolutely beautiful film, I must say, even though I was the person responsible for making it myself, because I was able to conjure up an interview with the great director by looking at it like I was interviewing him myself. This was...
Sheila, challenge.
Repeat myself.
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
indeed. Well, listen, Sheila, and you've got my personal best, the subject, And there are 36 seconds available, starting now.
My personal best outfit is a brown suit with high heels and a rather splendid hat. I have always kept some clothes special for Sundays, going to church, and whatever I had to do that was important. It was a tradition in our family. It was kept in a special part of the wardrobe.
Paul Challenge.
Oh, we had repetition of special.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you did have special before. So, well, listen, Paul. 18 seconds still available. My personal best with you starting now.
18 seconds happens by coincidence to be the time of my personal best, but I won't go into exactly what I'm doing in that time. Many people say to me, why don't you wear more waistcoats? And I say, well, I have one at home. It's my personal best. It was embroidered by the late Prince of Wales, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
So Paul Merton was speaking then as the whistle went. And we're moving into the final round. And Sheila, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is potholes. Something we're all plagued with these days as we go along the roads. And the 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Potholes are something that people get their knickers in a twist about, but it's not something that I...
Julian, you challenge.
Repetition of something.
Yes, and Julian, you've got in 54 seconds still available. Potholes starting now.
Aren't they awful things, potholes? I spent 3 hours waiting for roadside assistance, and there's a joke in there if you want to find it. But eventually a man came along to repair the tyre. I got back in my vehicle, proceeded on my journey, and what do you think happened 5 miles down the route? Take a wild guess. Yes, another pothole.
Sheila challenge.
Is it hesitation?
Well, it was teetering on hesitation.
No,
I think you teetered but didn't quite reach it. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Julian, and say it was an incorrect challenge. And there are still 32 seconds for you, and potholes starting now.
It was the same man in a high-vis jacket. Ooh!
Josh challenge.
Repetition of man?
Oh, yes, there was a man before, all right.
Yeah.
And the same man.
And,
can I just point out that Alfred Hitchcock was born in 1899, by the way? I did say 1900, but that was a mistake. I said beginning of the last century, so it was actually you were right, but for the wrong reason.
Can I have that point back?
No.
Josh, there are 29 seconds available. It's with you. Potholes starting now.
A lot of people get upset about potholes, but as a driver, I have a tip for you. This is a very, very... Oh, my word!
It's a natural way to speak,
Do you know
isn't it?
what? The real sadness is the people of Radio 4 are never going to hear my tip.
They might. You might get back. Paul had a correct challenge. He gets a point. There's still 22 seconds for him on potholes starting now.
Potholes, of course, are caused by weather as well as heavy traffic going along the roads. If it's icy conditions, what tends to happen is that once that icy substance... I could have said ice, couldn't I?
Yeah.
You said ice. Yes, you said ice before, Josh.
Yeah.
Not icy.
No, I think I did say... I said icy twice, I think.
Oh,
I
you
think I
said
did,
right.
yeah.
Icy twice.
So you see, Josh, you got in still.
Yeah.
Can
you say this at dictation speed? I'm going to write down this tip.
Listen up, I'm going for the Top Gear job, so...
Right. 12 seconds, Josh.
12 seconds.
All right. Potholes starting now.
Drive around them with the steering wheel. That would be what I would do, and it is what I have done.
Paul challenge.
Hesitation.
I'm afraid there was.
There was.
There was, yes.
I was so pleased to get my tip out there that I panicked.
But they
You
enjoy...
know, I never would have thought of that because I'd drive straight into them. I never would have thought of driving around them. It's amazing what you learn on this programme.
Yeah. But I'm afraid Paul had a correct challenge. And he's 6 seconds still on potholes starting now.
The deepest pothole I ever come across was near my country house. It was...
Sheila challenge.
Came across. Grammar.
What's wrong with that?
The deepest hole I ever came across.
Is that all right?
You said come across.
Anyway, grammar would... There's only 2 seconds to go.
I'll give it to
And
him.
it's not going to make any difference to this situation.
When you see this repeat back, you will know that I was right twice and you overruled me.
And if you do see this radio show, let us know.
Well, Sheila, as you're such an old and treasured friend, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, as it won't make any blind difference to the final result, and say there is 1 second left, no, 2 seconds, for you on Potholes starting now.
Potholes are a bit...
I said a little while ago, it was to be the final round, and Josh Widdicombe, who's not played as much, finished in a very strong 4th place. Sheila Hancock, in spite of that last point, finished in 3rd place. She was just 2 points behind Julian Clary, who was 3 or 4 points behind Paul Merton. So we say, Paul, you are our winner this week. It really remains to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul, Merton, Sheila, Hancock, Josh Widdicombe and Julian Clary. I thank Hayley Sterling for the way she's kept the score for me, blown her whistle with such delicacy. We thank our producer, Matt Strong. We're indebted to Ian Messenger, who created this amazing game. And we are indebted to this lovely audience here who've cheered us on our way magnificently. So from our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, thank you, and tune in again when we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. But also to welcome to the programme 4 exciting, talented performers who are going to show their skill with words and vocabulary as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition or deviation. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Sheila Hancock, and on my left, Julian Clary and Josh Widdicombe. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling, who's going to help me with the score. And she'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we begin the show this week with Julian Clary. And this subject for you, Julian, is the best cure for a hangover. 60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
If you wake up with something throbbing on your...
Josh challenged.
That was hesitation. He went, the best if you wake up.
No, Josh, that's too keen.
Oh, he's desperate for a few points.
No wonder we were called the Beast of Dartmoor. No wonder can you make any sense in a different show. Different show.
I should explain to our listeners that Paul was referring to a subject we had the last time these 4 were together, which of course was a different show.
Yeah, different audience.
We had a different audience.
I don't know how you knew it. How did you know?
Though a lot of them I do recognise from the... Julian. It's still with you because it was an incorrect challenge. You got a point for that, of course. It's the best cure for a hangover, starting now.
The best cure for a hangover is a glass of water, sit quietly in a darkened room, and think about something lovely. I ponder my friend Josie's wedding. Is your name Joss? I'm sorry, I've never seen him before.
Well, you're not going to be asked, that's for sure.
This is something else that came up in the other show we were doing. With these 4 that Josh mentioned he was going to get married shortly, right, Josh?
Repetition, hesitation and humiliation.
So terrible.
But Josh, you may have pressed your buzzer, but Paul challenged first.
Oh, it just gets worse and worse.
As it was so lovely to hear from you, and you haven't played the game as much as the other 3, give him a bonus point. Paul, your challenge.
Yeah, it's deviation, yes.
On deviation and all that rubbish, yes. Right. The best cure for a hangover is with you, Paul, and there are 45 seconds available, starting now.
When Jess gets married later this year, I hope that I'm going to get an invitation, because the best cure for a hangover is to go to a wedding the night before and then wake up in a glorious bed, having your husband bring you porridge. Oh, that's another show. Why am I mentioning that? That's another show.
Oh, the temptation. They keep referring back to the other show when they were all together.
This show better go out before the other one.
Sheila, you challenge first. Yes, for your challenge.
It was everything.
Everything.
I'm so confused.
Well, a point for you, Sheila, and you have the subject, and still 33 seconds available. The best cure for a hangover starting now.
The best cure for a hangover is not to get drunk in the first place, because I am strictly against people drinking alcohol to excess. It makes for an unhappy life, and I think it will give you a...
Paul, you challenge first.
Yes, deviation, hesitation.
Yes, right. A point for you for a correct challenge, and there are still 20 seconds available starting now.
Koalas squeezed into a glass create the most refreshing drink. Beside that marsupial, there is an anti-hangover cure. Many scientists believe that what I'm saying now is absolute rubbish.
Sheila, challenge.
Deviation.
What, many scientists believe it's true?
Koalas being squeezed into a glass. I mean...
Well, you didn't establish what was deviation, though, Sheila.
Well, the koalas being squeezed into a glass.
Oh, well, that's correct.
As
yeah.
a cure for... What?
No, that is a correct challenge, Sheila.
What?
I agree with you.
I thought you were saying it was
Have you ever tried it?
No,
Well, how do you know it's not a cure for a hangover?
because I don't know any koalas. But I have enough common sense to know you take an animal like that, you can't squeeze it, otherwise something very unpleasant would come out.
Yeah, and it cures hangovers.
Sheila, you have a correct challenge.
Well, this is outrageous.
And there are still 8 seconds available. The best cure for a hangover, Sheila, starting now.
This show is going to the pot because all of them are drinking too much and are suffering from hangovers, in my opinion.
Paul, challenge.
I'm not, because I've squeezed a koala into a glass.
The only thing I can do there is to give Paul a bonus point because we enjoyed the joke. Sheila, you were interrupted. You get a point. There's still 3 seconds available on this subject. The best cure for a hangover, Sheila, starting now.
The best cure for a hangover is lemon.
So at the end of that round, Sheila Hancock was speaking as the whistle went, so she gains an extra point. And it won't be surprised to hear that she's in a strong lead at the end of that round. Right, Josh, can we like you to begin the next round? And we go from bland subjects to an erudite one. And this one is Picasso.
Oh, my specialist subject.
Would you tell us something about Picasso in this game, starting now?
Picasso's main thing that he brought to art was drawing the features of a face on one side. You can see this influence today in Peppa Pig, where 2 eyes appear on the same piece of the nose. And to be honest with you, I think it teaches children a bad...
Julian, you challenge first.
Hesitation.
Yes, there was. So a point and the subject and 43 seconds if you need it on Picasso starting now.
I'm going to buy my dear friend Josh a Picasso for his wedding present, and I will wrap it up.
Josh, challenge.
I'm called John.
So what's your challenge when the rules are just a minute?
I did it for the laugh.
But Julian was interrupted, so he keeps the subject, and there are 38 seconds available. Picasso, Julian, starting now.
Picasso was prolific. He went through all these different periods where he only painted in blue or pink and then brown, which wasn't one of his greatest hits. And his pictures hang in all sorts of galleries, and you can go and look at them as long as you pay the entrance fee and be amazed. Quite breathtaking, really, the artistic imagination of Picasso. I suspect that he may have been a drinker, which I know some people on this panel wouldn't approve of. But he...
Paul, challenge.
Can I mention my cure for hangovers?
You've mentioned it once, Paul.
Oh, have I? Sorry, I'd forgotten I've got a hangover.
So have you a challenge within the rules of just a minute?
No, but I thought we were teetering on hesitation, but I'm not sure we got there.
No, we didn't quite.
No.
So an incorrect challenge. Julian, another point to you. Picasso, 10 seconds available still, starting now.
I met Picasso when I was in Barcelona, and he said, which is just...
I don't think he did say that.
He wasn't well at the time.
No.
And he had a baguette in his mouth.
Yeah.
But what was your challenge, Paul?
Well, it was sort of deviation, really.
Yes,
It was also a
Hesitation.
repetition of
Yeah.
Everything. So, Paul, a correct challenge. And there are 4 seconds available still for Picasso starting now.
Pablo Picasso stood in front of his latest painting and declared to the...
So Paul Merton was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and the situation is now that all 3 of them are equal in the lead, Paul Merton, Sheila, Hancock and Julian Clary. But only 1 point behind is Josh Widdicombe. And Sheila, it's your turn to begin. My party trick. 60 seconds if you need it, starting now.
My party trick is standing on my head and juggling with 5 balls. It's something I learnt in the playground when I was very young, and it's a very good party trick. I advise you all to have a go. If you want some coaching, just speak to me after the show and I'll tell you how it's done. I have another one where I do a double somersault as well, but my best party trick is to have a car waiting ready because I loathe parties and I like to have an excuse to get out while other people are doing their party tricks, which are usually incredibly boring, or it's small talk that I have no interest in, which is making me sound a very dreary person with also my dislike of alcoholic, that I don't know why I'm here trying to do a comedy show and feeling wretchedly miserable because I don't know enough about this subject, but I will keep burbling on. I've forgotten what it is. Oh, my God.
Sheila, you could have kept going. You went for 56 seconds.
Talking rubbish.
But Josh, you challenge first.
Yes, deviation.
Why?
What did I say?
Well, you just ran out of things to say on the subject. She said
she could have had for hesitation or deviation, yes. So I give her a bonus point because 56 seconds deserves it, doesn't it?
Near miss.
But Josh, you get a point for a correct challenge, and you have 4 seconds to tell us something about my party trick starting now.
The items I need for my party trick are as follows.
And we will never know, because the whistle went. He was speaking at that time. He gets a point for it. And, Paul, it's your turn to begin. The Outback. Tell us something about the Outback starting now.
The Outback in Australia has a sign on it as you approach it saying, "You go back, you are going the wrong way." An Australian girlfriend... Oh, Australia.
Julian?
Yeah.
Repetition.
So correct challenge, Julian. 51 seconds available. The Outback starting now.
Oh, it's ever so hot. I set out foolishly wearing a G-string and drinking a martini in my flip-flops, and I almost passed out.
Paul,
Did you say you were drinking a martini in your flip-flops?
I can't remember what I said, but I don't think I said anything against the rules. I was wearing a G-string, drinking a martini in my flip-flops.
Well, I don't think you can get a martini into flip-flops.
No, you're being pedantic. I was talking about...
This is called Just a Minute. What do you mean I'm being pedantic?
I was in my flip-flops.
Oh, I see. I
was
misunderstood for
wearing
small
flip-flops.
comic effects.
So, Julian, you were interrupted?
I
You
was.
get a point, yes. And 41 seconds still available. The Outback starting now.
Then at night, it gets freezing cold. Well, you just don't know where you are, do you? Luckily, I had a hangover from the martini, and I knew the perfect cure.
Sheila, challenge.
Repeated martini.
Repeated martini, yes.
Yes.
So, Sheila, you got a point for a correct challenge. And there are 33 seconds available. Tell us something about the Outback
In
starting.
my youth, I spent a year working in Oldham at the Theatre Royal, and I lived in a house that had a little outback lavatory.
Paul, challenge.
Lavatory, I was gonna say.
Hesitation, sadly.
I think it was, yes, just
Yeah.
about. Paul, 24 seconds still available. You tell us something about the Outback starting now.
There were 2 survivors from the plane crash, myself and Nicholas Parsons. Soon we knew we had to return to cannibalism. He drew in... Oh, no.
Julian, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Yeah, well, you'd hesitate as well if you knew what I was going to say.
We might discover later, but Julian, a correct challenge. 16 seconds on the Outback starting now.
Luckily, from my years as a squaddy, I knew how to survive. So I dug a hole and built a little house made of leaves, and I thought, this is quite a lonely existence. But a koala came up and begged me to squeeze him. I said, I know your game.
So Julian Clary was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and has taken the lead at the end of that round. And Julian, it's your turn to begin. The subject now, Agatha Christie. will you tell us something about Agatha Christie in this game starting now?
Agatha Christie churned out novels. She was always happy with a pen in her hand. The Mousetrap is the longest-running play in the West End, possibly the world, but I couldn't verify that. I think it's rather dreary, mainly for tourists. They enjoy that sort of thing. But when I did go and watch, there's interesting fact for you. The carpet is worn out where the actors have been following their marks for years and years. So there's a little...
Oh, yes. The audience spotted it first. Sheila, you came in there
Too
with
many
us.
years, I'm afraid.
Yes. And you have 33 seconds, if you need it, on Agatha Christie starting now.
Going back to my years in rep, I did do an awful lot of Agatha Christie plays, and I remember one called The Spider's Web. I was playing a sort of detective in it. I can't think why, it's a long while ago. But I did a long speech at the end where I had to tell who had done it. A friend of mine came round and said, well, who did do it?
Josh, challenge.
A repetition of who?
Who, yes.
All right.
Who done it? Who did do it? Right. Rosh.
Oh, it never rains but it pours, does it?
If you can get laughs as easy as that, I'll go on doing it. Josh, it was correct challenge. 12 seconds available. Agatha Christie, tell us something about her in this game starting now.
When I was a child on Dartmoor, I was a kitchen porter in a hotel called the Moorlands. This is where Agatha Christie went and hid when she didn't want the public to see her. She wrote a lot of...
So Josh Widdicombe, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and he has moved forward. He's now equal in third place with Paul Merton, but only 1 point behind Sheila Hancock and Julian Clary. And Josh, we're with you to begin, and the subject is The Perfect Day Out. Tell us something about that in this game starting now.
If you drive past Baker Street, you'll see lots and lots... Oh, my word!
Paul challenge.
Well, hesitation.
Yeah, we interpret that as hesitation.
Yes.
He was trying to avoid a certain word and elongated the word he was talking about. So I think that's hesitation. 56 seconds available, Paul. The Perfect Day Out starting now.
If you visit Koala World in Sydney, you will find that these magnificent little creatures, marsupials, are climbing up trees and they're sucking all kinds of things. They like particular gum. And there's one thing that you can say...
Julian challenge.
Deviation.
Why?
Because he's talking about koalas.
The Perfect Day Out.
Well, I changed my mind. You see, I was going to say repetition, and then I realised it wasn't. So I was trying my luck.
I think that's a bit pedantic.
It's lovely to hear from you, Julian,
Yeah.
but it was incorrect.
Yes, okay.
So, Paul, a correct challenge. Paul, an incorrect challenge.
You
so you
changed
get a
your
point
mind.
for that. And you have 43 seconds still available. The Perfect Day Out starting now.
As I sailed along the Thames in my own purpose-built kayak, looking up at Westminster Bridge, I thought to myself, this may be the perfect day out. Seagulls were crying in the distance. From within the House of Lords, I could hear the peers demonstrating...
Sheila challenge.
Hesitation?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yes. Sheila, correct challenge. 28 seconds still available. The Perfect Day Out starting now.
I'm hard put to think of a perfect day out because I've had so many wonderful times on my own and with other people. But I suppose it would be to be...
Oh, Julian challenge first.
Hesitation.
Hesitation, Julian. Correct challenge. 16 seconds still available. The Perfect Day Out starting now.
The perfect day out would be spent with my friend Losh sitting next to me. And we would wake up in Brighton and we'd go for a blow on the front and then maybe a little...
Sheila, you challenge.
I'm worried I don't want him leading Dosh astride.
So I interpret that as deviation from his correct name, do we?
Do you?
From me, no. No, I just wanted to save him because
Yeah.
I think he's in moral jeopardy.
But that's the way Julian lives.
I'm a happily married man, thank you very much.
Yes, we keep hearing about your husband. What's his name? Give us a name.
I've no idea. He responds to you.
Sheila, I think we give you the benefit of the doubt and say you have a correct challenge. You have a point, and you have 4 seconds for the perfect day out starting now.
It would have to be sunny because I loathe being cold. In a boat.
So Sheila Hancock, speaking then as the whistle went, gained that extra point for doing so and has taken the lead. And we come to you, Sheila, to begin, actually, your term. And the subject now is the East End. Tell us something about that area or that phrase starting now.
The East End is an area of London that I absolutely adore. I think it officially starts at the Aldgate Fountain statue or even Tower Bridge. But from there on, it's a delight. It used to be a terrible slum. Actually, even in my childhood, I lived up the road in King's Cross, and it was a dodgy area to go to.
Julian, yes.
Repetition of area.
Yes, we mentioned the area too before. So, Julian, correct challenge, another point to you, and 38 seconds if you need it. The East End, starting now.
When I was a gangster's mole, decades ago, before I became a camp comic and renowned homosexual, I spent an awful lot of my time in the East End on the arm of one gangster or another.
Josh, challenge.
Repetition of gangster?
Yes, you had a gangster before.
Was it not gangsters and
Well,
gangster?
it was,
Yeah,
but never mind.
gangster's
Let him
mole.
speak.
Oh, gangster. But, Josh, I'm helping you there. There are 24 seconds for you. Another point, the East End, starting now.
I live in the East End, just near Victoria Park, and every time I get in a black cab home, the driver will say to me, "This area isn't what it used to be."
Sheila, challenge.
No, I'm saying it's a repeat of area, but it was me that said area.
That's why it sounded familiar.
I know. This is without doubt the craziest show I've ever done in 50 years. I mean, it is bizarre.
I suppose in this show you could challenge yourself, but it's best if you're speaking at the time.
Yes, it is. Sorry about that. Go on, Josh.
So, Josh, an incorrect challenge, a point to you. 15 seconds still available. The East End, starting now.
After they've told me what has gone wrong, they'll tell me another thing.
Julian, challenge.
Repetition.
What?
Was it?
No.
Yes,
It was something else.
Told and
It
told
was,
and
but
tell.
you have to tell me what it is.
Oh,
I know what it was, but do you know what it was?
he's got his finger out. It's always a worry.
That's not his finger. Not his finger.
No, well, I do know now because someone told me, but that's not fair. So give him an extra point and carry on.
No, not an extra point. He'll get a point for an incorrect challenge.
Yes, give him that.
Because you didn't remember.
No.
It was tell me. You repeated tell me.
I know that now.
You know that now.
I don't want to get too confident, but I think I'm about to win.
No, you're still in fourth place. Josh, 11 seconds still available. The East End starting now.
Then I'm told, do you know who lives in that house?
Paul,
We
challenge.
have not told before.
You were told before, yes.
Oh, we'll never know who lived in that house.
Well, listen.
No.
Paul, another point to you. 8 seconds available. The East End starting now.
So I've got this look-up garage, so you walk in a second-hand pelican, you're the man to talk to, all right? Penguins, any sort of bird you want, koala.
Julian, challenge.
It's deviation.
Why?
Well, I didn't know what. Were you trying to do an East End accent?
Was I trying to do an East End accent?
Difficult decision for me because it was an incoherent East End accent.
Have you been to the East End lately?
I don't think anybody speaks quite as incoherently as that. So I'm going to give Julian the benefit of the doubt. And you have 3 seconds on the East End starting now.
Go blimey, governor, let's go.
Paul, you challenge.
Deviation, because nobody says "Gore blimey governor" anymore. Not since 1948 have they said "Gore blimey governor." He's hoisted on his own petard. You can see by the way his trousers are hanging. He's hoisted on his own petard.
So have you a challenge within the rules of
Yes, it's deviation. People don't say "Gore blimey governor" anymore in the East End.
I wasn't saying it was current day East End. I was.
Oh, well, deviation then.
I was going backwards in time to 1948.
Oh, were you?
Yes.
You didn't establish that, though?
Well, I didn't have time.
No.
Paul, you're trying very hard.
I know.
I'm not quite getting there. So, Julian, another incorrect challenge and another point to you. And 2 seconds to go. The East End starting now.
Let's go do a bank job.
So, at the end of that round, Julian and Clary were speaking as the whistle went. And we're moving in to the final round. Oh, I'll give you the score as we do. It's very close, actually. Paul Merton and Josh Widdicombe are equal in third place. And they're only 2 points behind Sheila Hancock. And Sheila's only 2 points behind our leader, Julian Clary. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. And the subject is my bookshelf. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
On my bookshelf, I have a copy of the A to Z of London, and the East End is a very popular area. Because I think about it, you come out down the back of the thing, and they go down the thing. I said to her, I said, here, you're going to go down the back, and I said, I'll grease up your monkey for you. He said, you put it on a pony, and I'll put it on my back. I'll tell you that much. I go as far as Whitechapel. What happened then? What happened then?
Sheila, what is your challenge?
Deviation.
Yeah. Paul, what we'll do, and I'll be generous here, I'll give you a bonus point because the audience obviously enjoyed your incorrect impersonation of an East Ender. But Sheila, you had a correct challenge, so you get a point, and you have 51 seconds if you need it on my bookshelf starting now.
My bookshelf is one of several because I am surrounded by books which I am trying to get rid of because I am at the age when I am beginning to declutter so that my children don't have to do a lot of work when I die, which will be imminent if I survive this show. However, I have on it all sorts of things that I am trying to give to charity. The Oxfam shop on Chiswick.
Paul challenge.
Oh, slight hesitation, sadly.
Yeah.
Yes, there was. So, Paul, my bookshelf is back with you, and there are 28 seconds available, starting now.
I bought my bookshelf on the Old Kent Road. This bloke said to me, I tell you what, Governor, you want to go around the back of the thing?
Josh, you challenge.
I just think he needed to be stopped.
No. I hereby publicly vow to talk like that forever.
Well, you won't get very much work.
No. Well, I don't know. There's always something, you know what I mean? I'd do anything for a pony.
I've given you enough bonus points in this round, Josh, correct challenge. 24 seconds available. My bookshelf starting now.
My girlfriend's mother has colour-coded our bookshelf, so it goes from yellow to red to black to white to blue to green.
Who challenged? Paul? Huh?
Yeah, a lot of twos to red to
We
black
let
to
one,
yellow
two-
to, you know, there was
Yeah,
quite-
Yeah, so I thought, yeah.
So, Paul, we got the subject back again?
Yeah.
And the 17 seconds on my bookshelf starting now.
One of the great books that I have on my bookshelf is undoubtedly A History of London by that great scholar, Sir Cecil Parkinson.
Julian challenge.
Repetition of London.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yes,
you
yeah.
mentioned London before, Paul.
I was seconds away from doing it again.
And
God blimey, he's right and all, Governor. Strike me pink.
and we enjoyed all so much, Paul. We'll give you another bonus point. It won't make any Well, it won't make any difference to the final score. Julian is a correct challenge, another point to you. And there are 9 seconds for my bookshelf starting now.
My bookshelf is heaving, mainly with dialect literature, which is where I learnt the many accents that I'm adept at.
Let me give you the final score. Josh Widdicombe, who hasn't played the game as much as the others, is 1 point behind Sheila Hancock, who's 1 point behind Paul Merton, who's 1 point behind Julian Clary. We do say, therefore, Julian, you are the winner. The winner. It gets you, doesn't it? Yeah. I'm doing it myself now. You can't go big camera. You are the winner this week, Julian. So it only remains me to say thank you to these 4 fine, humorous players of the game, Paul Merton, Sheila Hancock, Josh Widdicombe and Julian Clary. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score. She's blown the whistle with such style after the 66 seconds elapsed. And we're grateful to our producer, Matt Strong. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we are indebted to this lovely audience here. So from the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, thank you. And tune in when we play Just a Minute! Welcome to Just a Minute. Oh, thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons. And as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world. And also to welcome to the programme 4 talented performers who are going to show their skill with words and language as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And they are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Josie Lawrence, and seated on my left, Zoe Lyons and Lee Mack. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I am going to ask them to speak if they can on the subject that I will give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Hayley Sterling. She's going to help me with the score, run the stopwatch for me, and, of course, blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. So we begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Paul, the South Pole. Tell us something about that cold place in this game, starting now.
The Huskies were husky. They'd been singing all night long. The midnight hour had crept upon us. I turned to Nicholas Parsons in our two-man tent, and I realised that by the end of the evening, only one of us would have survived. Cannibalism was at the forefront of my mind as I looked upon his chunky arm. I hadn't eaten for nearly 3 weeks, and there we were now, Nick in front of me, his golden flesh burning with desire in my heart. My eyes looked into his. We fell in love and kissed. The icebergs outside were melting towards us in the same way that my emotions were warming towards him. We realised this was one thing that we would never be able to talk about apart from on Just a Minute when you turn to go for a long time. And we realised then that it was going to be something very special. The North Pole was miles away. We were at the South Pole. That's how far we were away from the previous mentioned pole.
And I remember it well.
So do I. It was only last week.
Oh, it doesn't often happen like that. Paul,
that's just saved me £2.99 a minute.
What was that, Lee?
It was a joke about a sex line, Nicholas, and I wish I hadn't said it.
Could you say it again?
Yes, that saved me £2.99 a minute, Nicholas. Funny enough, it didn't get any more laughs on the second. Yeah. I tell you what we could do. We could try it for a third time and see how that goes. Well, that saved me £2.99 a minute. We'll use that one.
Give him a bonus point.
Rule of 3.
And, of course, in this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. And if you go for the whole 60 seconds without being interrupted, you get a bonus point. So Paul's in the lead with 2 points, and the others are yet to score. And we begin.
I thought I just got a point.
The others, except for Lee Mack, have yet to score. Josie Lawrence, when you take the second round,
Okay.
a knee-jerk reaction. Tell us something about that subject in this game, if you can, starting now.
A knee-jerk reaction is rather like a knee-jerk reflex. When you go to your doctor's, he will text. Oh, God, I've gone wrong. I said text instead of test.
I know. Actually, if you kept going, they probably wouldn't have noticed it.
I know.
Anyway, Zoe, a correct challenge, a point to you. And there are 52 seconds available. A knee-jerk reaction, starting now.
So when you go to your local surgery, a doctor will often take out a tiny little hammer and approach you with it dramatically, slightly aggressively. You start to worry. You think, what is he going to do with that? You needn't be bothered about that, though, because he's only going to tap you on your knee. Just...
Lee, challenge.
Have we massively deviated from what a knee-jerk reaction is? I always thought a knee-jerk reaction was sort of not literally your knee jerking. It was just an instant reaction to something that wasn't thought through properly.
But it comes from a knee-jerk reaction.
reaction.
It has got a scientific basis.
Yeah.
So when you go to the doctors and they do that test, they say, right, we're going to do the knee-jerk reaction test.
Yeah.
Oh, OK.
I mean, it does have a Latin term, but they don't tend to bother with it.
I thought they test your reflexes, don't they?
Yeah, you're quite right. It is a reflex. When you,
a reflex test,
you use
yeah.
it. But it's also right.
To be honest, I didn't think it through properly. It was just a knee-jerk reaction. I just said it.
Well, I won't charge any points on that one. But, Zoe, we don't take it away from you because you weren't deviating from the subject. And there are still 36 seconds available. A knee-jerk reaction starting now.
Well, now I'm just a little bit anxious and a little bit peeved.
Oh, yes, right. Paul challenge.
A repetition of little bit.
A little bit. There's too much little bits there. Paul, correct challenge. A point, of course. 33 seconds still available. A knee-jerk reaction starting now.
I finished playing pantomime last week at Wimbledon and my knee has had a bit of a reaction to it. I was widow twanky and wearing high-heel shoes and I think that's what made my knee go a little bit funny. There is a strange kind of bandage I have on it at the moment, but this morning it started to swell up and I thought that's a bit unusual. So I decided to take myself off to the various knee clinics which are near me. There's two, in fact. There is the specialist knee clinic in Marylebone and there is another one which I shouldn't mention because it's run by my father, which is known as the Mr. Merton knee... I was trying to find another word for clinic.
Josie, you challenged first.
Hesitation.
Yes, indeed. And you've got him with 4 seconds to go. A knee-jerk reaction, Josie, starting now.
Sometimes a knee-jerk reaction can be so very...
So at the end of that round, Josie Lawrence, speaking as the whistle went, gained an extra point. She's one behind Paul Merton and the other two are behind him. And Lee Mack, we'd like you to begin the next round. Scones. You tell us something about scones in just a minute, starting now.
Well, I'm glad that you pronounced it scones, Nicholas, because, as you know, a lot of people seem to think it's scones, and I don't like that. But there's a big division in the country about it, and there's only one way to find out, and that is, of course, another referendum. But what could possibly go wrong giving two people just two options and seeing what happened?
Josie challenge.
Repetition of two.
Yes, so two, repetition of two.
I'm sorry.
It was a repetition, Lee, unfortunately. Josie, a correct challenge. 43 seconds are still available. Scones, starting now.
I love making scones. I, too, call them scones and not scones, because you don't say bonds, you say bones. Anyway, I like making dropped scones. You get batter, egg, milk, flour, whip it all up with a whisk.
Paul.
Isn't batter egg, milk and flour? Then you get batter, then egg, milk and flour. Don't you make batter from egg, milk and flour?
Yes.
So you say you get batter, egg, milk and flour.
I meant really you get batter by mixing egg, milk and flour.
Yes.
It was a little jump, you know.
Yes.
If it was written down, it'd be a dash.
Yeah, or a mistake, as we call it in the show.
No, Nicholas, that wasn't... I went, you make batter, egg, milk, flour. People knew what I was saying.
I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Josie, and say you have a... The audience are completely divided on this. If I can
Don't worry,
redress...
I'm not going to get to the end.
Paul, if I can redress the balance later on and give you the favourite, I will. 27 seconds, scones starting now.
The best thing about scones is they have to be buttery, melt in the mouth. My auntie Florrie used to make them... See, I told you.
Zoe, you challenged first. What was it?
Just a slight hesitation.
No,
It
yes.
was a slight hesitation.
And you have 19 seconds available still on scones, starting now.
The big debate about scones is whether you put your jam or the cream on first. I, personally, am a conserve sort of person.
Paul, you challenged.
Well, a hesitation, sadly.
Yeah, it was a hesitation, sadly. And you've got him with 10 seconds to go on scones, starting now.
So there I've got a great big plate of batter in front of me, and the reason why I've got that substance is because I have gone to the shop beforehand. I have bought eggs, milk and flour, and I've mixed it all together in a bowl, and that's how you got batter.
So Paul, speaking as the whistle when again that extra point, has increased his lead by one over Josie Lawrence, and then comes Zoe Lyons and Lee Mack. And Zoe, it's your turn to begin. The subject, management speak. Tell us something about that subject in this game. Are you writing it down, right?
I am writing it down.
Starting now.
I think one of the reasons I became a stand-up comedian was that I could avoid any sort of management speak in my day-to-day job. Blessedly, I don't have to go into an office where there's somebody there telling me to think about blue sky awareness. Or indeed...
Josie, you've challenged.
Repetition of or.
Yes.
Oh.
But
It was a slight stumble over the or. It was a slight stumble over the or.
You did tap me there. I think you were helping me. I don't know what you were saying. I thought you were...
You said day to day.
Oh, I thought you said, what are you doing afterwards? I thought, there's a time and a place, Nicholas, but we're in the middle of the game and...
Oh, give him a bonus point because we loved it all. I couldn't help him, but Josie, you had a correct challenge. You have management speak and you have 44 seconds starting now.
My friend works in an office, and every Friday they have to go in for a meeting where the boss talks management speak. He will say things like, let's bat this around, a shuttlecock can only drop forwards, and we're going to make this 150% work. She never has any idea what he's bleeding on about. Management speak is devoid of any empathy or love. Like, imagine going out with a boyfriend that spoke in management speak. You'd go to the bedroom, he'll say, well, let's drop them down, roll them around and see what turns up. This is a terrible way of talking, and I will not have it. Management speak can be so very mind-numbingly terrible, and it means...
So Josie Lawrence was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and with others in the round, she's now taken the lead. One ahead of Paul Merton, then followed by the other two, and Paul, we're back with you to begin. And the subject now, bird watching. 60 seconds if you need it. Bird watching, 60 seconds.
Yeah, lovely, yeah, my favourite, yeah.
Oh, all right.
I did it for O-level.
Starting now.
I was filming in Ireland once on an ostrich farm, and ostriches are very strange creatures because they've got a tiny head, roughly bigger than a tennis ball, and they look at you in a very odd way, weaving in and out towards you with their beady little eyes, and you think to yourself, he's going to attack me any moment. Another kind of bird is a duck, and that's all I know.
Zoe, you press first.
There was a hesitation just around the corner there. There was going to be a lot of silence after duck. I was anticipating.
Indeed. So Zoe, you have it. 44 seconds. Bird watching starting now.
I like to watch birds on occasion. My favourite would, of course, be a wader because of their Wellingtons. Very clever animals they are, allowing their knees not to get wet in the water or sea. They fly out sometimes with their boots still on, which is quite difficult because it's a heavy piece of rubber to have around your tiny little ankles. Yet they manage to do it with quite dexterity and speed, using them to gather up the air as they swoop about magically and wonderfully, looping the other way and this way. On occasion, climbing down again into the air and picking up shells and pieces of...
Josie, you challenged.
It was a repetition of air.
Yes, it was.
Was there a lot of air? There was a lot of hot air in there. There was a lot of air.
It was very kinetic, though.
Yeah. Josie, you have a correct challenge, and you have 12 seconds. Bird watching starting now.
I used to be absolutely obsessed with ducks. I love bald-headed coots, pochards, and also I think my favourite is the swan. I live...
Zoe.
That's not a duck. I mean, I don't know a lot about birds, but that is not a duck.
No, a swan is not a duck.
It's not a duck, and I thought that was a list of ducks, so I was just being pedantic there with the
A list of ducks, it was not.
Yeah.
And if you said a list of birds, we could have given it to you. So, Zoe, correct challenge. And you've got him with 3 seconds to go. Bird watching starting now.
My favourite binoculars to go bird watching with.
Oh. Zoe Lyons, again speaking as it was went. Gained an extra point. She has moved forward. She's equal with Paul in second place. Josie's in the lead, and Lee is in a very strong fourth place. Josie Lawrence, it's your turn to begin. Lady Godiva. Tell us something about that character in this game, starting now.
Lord and Lady Godiva lived in Coventry and were very good folk. They did things for charity and gave money to the poor, but he...
Lee, you've challenged.
I think you might have done repetition there of lived.
Of lived, that's right, yes.
Yeah, I know, because you told me. I mean, don't get me wrong, Josie, it's complete news to me, but I'm being helped by Nicholas quite a lot, and I quite like that. He's feeling for me, and I like that.
Somebody's playing the game for the first time. Everybody knows here who's played it regularly, but anybody who's coming on for the first time does get a little bit of a shove from me on occasion.
Thank you, that's very kind, thank you.
But don't draw attention to it.
It'll never be mentioned again, but I can't help thinking when you hit me on the arm, it's quite obvious.
Sorry. Did Nicholas help you then?
He did help me, yes, he did help me.
And I'd only spoken like 5 words.
He helped me quite early on, and again, I wasn't sure what he was saying, so I was trying to look at you and listen to him at the same time, which is actually being quite difficult for me, but I'm happy to go with the help, but lived.
Lee. Press the buzzer again.
Yes, that's for the edit. I think there's a repetition there on lived.
You've got a correct challenge, I'm afraid, Josie.
Yes,
I must
I know.
give it to him. 49 seconds available, Lee. Lady Godiva, starting now.
So, reincarnation. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of repeating on lived. I quite like Lady Godiva because it's Cockney rhyming slang for fiver, as is Ayrton Senna a tenor and Bob Smith a riff. And the thing about Lady Godiva that I really like is that it is a type of chocolate, actually, that not many people know about, but I bought it for my children at Christmas, and I ended up eating a lot of them, and they've got raisins in them, and they've even got, like, cornflake crunchy bits in the middle, and I don't quite know where you get them from, but I bought them anyway from somewhere and ended up giving them to the children, and I can't believe that no one stopped me yet.
Zoe Cannon.
I think it was a repetition of children there.
There was.
Well, I've got a lot of kids.
You've got a lot, yeah.
I've got a lot of kids, yeah.
Got more than one.
Got more than one kid, yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a repetition of children there, Nicholas?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
Right. Did you tell her that, or did she do it on her own accord?
I got that all by myself.
Oh, well done.
So, Zoe, correct challenge. 19 seconds. Lady Godiva, starting now.
Lady Godiva was, of course, famous for riding through the streets on a horse without any clothes on, which can be very dangerous for chaffing. But it also meant that she had a massive walk-in wardrobe with lots and lots of room in it.
Oh, yes. Paul, challenge.
A repetition of lots and lots.
Lots and lots,
gosh.
yes. It's a natural phase of speech, yes. Paul, you've got in on this subject, and there are 8 seconds available. Lady Godiva, starting now.
On the morning of the horse ride, Lady Godiva looked into a mirror and examined her voluptuous figure and thought to herself, I'm going to be a hit this afternoon.
So, it's a very close contest. Paul Merton, Josie Lawrence, and Zoe Lyons are all equal in the lead, just ahead of Lee Mack. And Lee, it's your turn to begin. And the subject now, bingo. Do you know something about it?
Before we do, can I just say this game's very difficult, and can't we just have a chat?
No. Bingo, Lee, starting now.
I used to be a bingo caller back in the 1980s, and I know all the terminology for all the numbers, like Kelly's Eye, number 1. Doesn't matter what you throw at me, I will know it. The same for 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, or 6, or 7.
Paul challenge.
Quite a lot of oars.
Yeah.
I thought you could have the little words.
Yeah, a little word like that. They might let 1 or even 2 go.
But not the whole...
5.
Not 1
5
or 2 or 3 or 4 or
5. Yes, I mean, I must give it against you there, Lee. Paul, correct challenge, and there are 47 seconds. Tell us something about bingo, starting now.
Oh, the 8's 88.
Lee challenge.
Repetition of 8.
No. All the 8's 88.
All the 8.
All the 8's 88. Oh, yeah, they're all 3 different words.
Yeah.
Nice.
Funny how these things work out, isn't it?
So another point to you,
As you
Paul.
were.
Incorrect challenge. Bingo is still with you, and there are 44 seconds available, starting now.
There was a bingo contest at a holiday camp I was at in the 1960s, and my Auntie Betty won, and we were so pleased. The box of chocolates was handed over to her, and we sat outside the chalet consuming the items. My favourite, I suppose, of all the various bingo attendances that I was at was the Granada Tooting. That was a magnificent building, and the great thing about it was that the bingo caller was dressed in this magnificently red coat, and everything about him exuded sheer class. He was a man that knew all the numbers, and he didn't say "or" in between them either. He would say things like all the 6's.
Josie challenged.
Repetition of all.
Yes, all the 6's, all the numbers.
That's right, yeah.
Josie, well listened. And you've got 7 seconds still. Bingo, starting now.
I go to a lovely club in Blackheath with my sister and my family, and I've got my own bingo.
Oh, Paul challenged.
Well, there were 3 my's very quickly.
Yeah, my.
My favourite, my sister, my.
Paul, you've got him with 1 second to go.
Oh.
But he
I
deserved
share
it.
your disappointment. I do.
1 second on bingo, Paul, starting now.
Bingo!
So Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle when gained that extra point, he's increased his lead ahead of the other 3. Zoe Lyons, we're with you to begin. The subject is the scream. Tell us something about the scream in this game, starting now.
The Scream is, without doubt, Norway's most famous piece of art, painted by Edvard Munch sometime in the past. It is a depiction of man's loneliness and isolation within society, or so they say. I don't believe it. I think it actually illustrates a person who is very frustrated at male pattern baldness. Perhaps, indeed, the person in the picture had bought a pint of beer in a Norwegian bar and was just terrified at the price of alcohol in that Scandinavian country. Because if you have visited that part of the world, you will know that the price of a...
Prawdy, you went 25 seconds. Josie, you challenge first.
Repetition of price.
Yes, you briefly price. And so there are 25 seconds available. The Scream with you, Josie, starting now.
I went to do some improvising in Oslo last year, and there's the Edvard Munch Museum. But strangely enough, they don't have the Scream there. It was lent to someone else. You can see the Scream in the British Library. It's coming very soon. But he painted more than one of the Scream. There was about 6 of them, I think. Rather like gong, 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 gong. I meant to say Vincent van Gogh, and it came out as gong. Van Gogh.
Well, the Americans pronounce Van Gogh as Van Gogh, which always sounds like a removal firm.
Yeah.
What was your challenge, Paul?
Well, hesitation, really.
Yeah.
You know,
you shouldn't have hesitated then, because you only had 1 second to go.
I share your disappointment.
Repetition.
I still meant it.
Do I get a point for that?
No.
Well, he's trailing a bit. I give him as many as I want. He deserves one for that. The audience enjoyed it.
Yeah. Look, there's a fine line between support and sympathy.
It's one of the few points he hasn't begged for.
No, he's earned 1 or 2. Paul, correct challenge, 1 second to go. The Scream starting now. So Paul Merton, speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, has increased his lead at the end of the round, and he also begins the next round. Paul, the subject is detoxing. I don't know how much experience you have of that, but talk on the subject, starting now.
I thought bird watching was bad. Detoxing is one of those subjects that comes up in January. People want to give up red meat, alcohol, sugar, those sorts of things, and that's all I have to say on it. and ducks.
Josie, you challenge first.
Hesitation.
Yes, it's hesitation. So, Josie, there are 51 seconds still available. Detoxing starting now.
Like Paul says, people want to detoxify in January, and I don't understand that. Surely that's the month where you should be eating and drinking whatever you want, because it's such a depressing time of the year. My form of detoxing is to put more ice in my white wine and to not eat my crusts when I have a sandwich. Also, people are so obsessed with juicing. And the thing that I really hate about juicing is...
I think there might have been a juicing...
It repeats on you juices.
It does.
So, Lee, you have juicing. I know you have detoxing. 23 seconds available if you need it, starting now.
I've been told the best way to detox is actually to drink your own urine, which apparently is very good for most ailments, but not great for halitosis. And I think that the best thing to do is also eat lots of berries. That's what I do in January, just strawberries, raspberries, gooseberries, and other types of berries like...
Zoe challenged
There was a repetition of berries, I'm afraid.
There's too many berries there. And Zoe, you've got him with 5 seconds to go. Another point, of course, detoxing starting now.
I like to detox by reducing the amount of alcohol I'm drinking to about...
So Zoe was speaking as the whistle went. Let's move forward. She's still in 3rd place, but she's moved. And we're moving into the final round. And Lee Mack, it's your turn to begin. And now we go to Spike Milligan. That is the subject. I don't know if you know much about Spike, but tell us what you do know in this game, starting now.
If you were to visit Spike Milligan's grave, you would, of course, see that very famous epitaph of "I told you I was ill," which is one of the greatest gravestones in the history of mankind. He really was a genius, and one of my favourite lines he said was, "I inherited a lot from my father because he was a lunatic." And also one of his lines, which I cannot...
Oh, Zoe challenge.
I'm really sorry, but there was a repetition of lines.
There was.
A couple of lines.
It's a difficult game, isn't it?
There was a repetition.
You must come again and get more practice, yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Zoe?
You know, I can stay at home and be patronised by my wife. I don't need it.
39 seconds, Zoe.
Oh, wow.
Spike Milligan, starting now.
The thing I love most about Spike Milligan was his funny little rhymes. My favourite being...
Paul challenged.
Well, there was a hesitation there, sadly.
Yes, there was. So, Paul, you've got in with 32 seconds to go on Spike Milligan, starting now.
He first came to prominence during The Goon Show in the 1950s, co-starring Harry Seacombe and Peter Sellers, and Spike wrote the majority of the scripts, although sometimes he was helped by Eric Sykes and Larry Stevens. After that, he attempted a film career that was nowhere near as successful as his further colleague in the show that I'd mentioned earlier, who went on to international fame, but nevertheless, he made quite a few good movies. One, Postman's Knock, was released in 1963, where he played the entitled part of the character that was in the main title of it, and he was...
Oh, Zoe challenge?
I think there was a repetition of title.
Yes, entitled and title.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Oh, yes,
It was
titles
very close,
and title,
though.
yes.
Yes,
Sorry,
it is very
sorry.
close, yes.
Ooh.
All the 8's 88.
So,
I share your disappointment.
yeah.
Repetition.
Yeah.
Get another point down.
The audience are clapping, so give Lee an extra point. I don't know what's Zoe, an
I don't
incorrect...
feel so much like a competitor as a competition winner.
Paul, you have a correct challenge. You have 5 seconds available. Spike Milligan, starting now.
When I interviewed Spike about a year before he died, he was on very good form indeed.
Paul Merton speaking as the whistle went. Let me give you the final situation. Lee Mack, who's only played the game once before, finished in a very...
Oh, you've remembered?
He was in a very strong 4th place. And just ahead of him, in 3rd place, was Zoe Lyons. A few points ahead of her was Josie Lawrence. And 4 points ahead of Josie was Paul Merton. So we say, Paul... Wait for it. You are the winner this week. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game. Paul Merton, Josie Lawrence, Lee Mack and Zoe Lyles. I thank Hayley Sterling, who's helped me with the score and kept the stopwatch going and blown her whistle with such style. We're indebted to our producer, Matt Strong, and we're deeply indebted to the creator of this amazing game, Ian Messiter. And from this audience here, we're indebted to them because they've been fantastically warm, friendly, exuberant. From our audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, thank you, and tune in again when we take to the air and we play Just a Minute!